I've had the great pleasure, together with Carlos Moreira, to be the co-creator of an initiative that I guess we're formally taking out of the box today, Carlos, called the Transhuman Code. This is born out of Carlos's pioneering efforts as the founder of WiseKey, truly one of the pioneers of cybersecurity today and its application across a broad range of deep technology platforms. Wang Wei, who I've introduced to you earlier, is playing a very, very significant role in China. He really is leading the blockchain initiative in that country, and there are some suggestions that you're going to be the dominant force. I'm sure there'll be a lot of conversation around that over the next 48 hours. Rodrigo Arboleda has formed and led, I think, what remains today to be one of the truly endearing social innovation initiatives called One Laptop Per Child. I know he'll talk about that today, but this is an initiative that brought technology not only to the developed countries, but most importantly to the developing countries, and has had a lasting effect and truly is considered royalty in many of the countries around the world, across sub-Saharan Africa and beyond. Daniil Karemi, many of you would know from our previous summits, is the head of technology for the World Economic Forum. And of course, each year around the world, most notably in Davos, the great minds are assembled to discuss those factors that are influencing not only our lives today, but what lies ahead. And I'm so honored to have the four of you here today to talk about the Transhuman Code and to engage all of you in a conversation that I think is truly so important. Daniil Karemi, I'll leave this all in your hands.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, David. We only have 30 minutes, so we're going to go in a very brisk pace. And before I turn to Carlos as my first opening speaker to explain a little bit the idea of the Transhuman Code as they're taking it out of the box, I would like to mention that myself, I'm very excited about this panel because normally we talk about cybersecurity and the latest incident and how insecure everything became and how important it is to keep yourself vigilant and work with your clients, the supply chain. So today is actually fascinating. Today is about very intellectual, stimulating, and challenging, and we're going to talk about many issues that will touch upon you perhaps not tomorrow, although it may be even yesterday, but probably in a year or two, that where you fully start realizing. Why is it important? Because as humans, we always tend to overestimate the impact of technology short term, and we always underestimate the impact of technology long term. And I think it's important in today's high-paced world to give ourselves that little bit of time to think about the implications that you're going to have to deal with in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years' time. And it's hard, but we're going to try it. With that, I'm going to pass it to Carlos, who can explain a little bit the idea of Transhuman Code to us.
Thank you, Daniel. So during our research in WiseKey, we are connecting cities, we are connecting cars, we are protecting people, we produce semiconductor chips. During that research over many years, I was also the Chief Security Officer of the UN in Geneva for 15 years. We realized a fundamental issue that the Internet, the World Wide Web, the fourth industrial revolution that we had created and we are in the process to enter, it's actually a machine-based revolution. For some reason, we forgot the human aspect of it. And for a very simple reason, when the web was created on the top of the ARPANET, there was an interconnection of machines. So this scaled very fast because in the years after the ARPANET, the web just indexed the world, and then Google came with the search engine, which accelerated that process of connecting machines. But suddenly, humans were left out. So our digital identity is not recognized by the web. We have been unprecedentedly attacked. We are losing our data. Our personal data has been compromised by social media platforms. So we are in a fundamental moment on the history of this evolution on where human has to be factoring again into the technology. If not, this is going to accelerate. The next by the year 2028, we enter into the singularity year where one computer is as powerful as the human mind. And by the year 2045, one computer will be as powerful as 6 billion human minds altogether. So if we don't take strong decisions to bring back again the person as the center of gravity of this immense IT revolution, we will basically be redundant. Humans will disappear as we know humans. And that's what we call that in a very provocative way, the transhuman code. Means that there is a code. If we think as a technology, with technology, we always think about coding, programming, algorithm, things that we can put into a machine and make that machine behave in a way that we have been programming. So the thinking of this transhuman code is to identify the human values. What makes us humans? What things humans do that machines will never be able to do? What are your uniqueness? How can we insert that uniqueness into the machines so the machines will become tools and will not replace us? We always say a piano compositor will never be able to play piano if he doesn't have a machine, but the machine will never replace the genius of a pianist. So we need to bring the technology to where it belongs, to empower humans to take the next evolutionary step, which is going to be amazing, but without replacing them. So that's the entire idea of the transhuman code.
Perhaps I was a little bit too quick to say this will be a positive panel because the vision is somewhat positive, somewhat negative, but I guess it's what we're going to make out of it. You did mention Singularity University. We actually have an expert who works with Singularity University a lot, but he also mentioned that we have to put a human in the center. Now, a lot of this will have to happen in the cities, obviously, because as fast as technological transformation is happening, there's also a very fundamental urbanization that is going on the planet. Rodrigo, could you enlighten us a little bit on what you're thinking about this topic?
I'd be happy to. First of all, I'm an architect, so you can imagine and you can ask what is a nice girl like me doing in a place like this, But perhaps because I'm an architect by profession, I was trained in something that today is becoming very much in vogue, which is the word design thinking, is to inject back into technology some of the ideas of creativity, innovation, and the things that make us humans. I have been very much involved with the Media Lab of MIT, a university that I went as a school, as a student. And as such, I became very much involved with education and technology. For the past 9 to 10 years, I was the head of the One Laptop Per Child project, which was a non-for-profit project that was designed and created at MIT. And we ended up delivering more than 3 million laptops in 51 countries and 21 different languages, including indigenous languages that were going to disappear, precisely because we are very much interested in the human element of technology. Lately, I have put together a non-for-profit organization together with a former head of the innovation at Yahoo and the former head and CEO of Singularity University, Salim Ismail, an author also of a very well-known book called Exponential Organizations, and with a medical doctor who is pioneering non-invasive technologies in healthcare businesses, Dr. Maurice Ferré, who was the head and co-founder of Mako Surgical Technologies. And we, precisely because we were so much concerned about the human element in societies, we are putting together this group that is called Fasttrack Institute that aims at accelerating rather than reject the adoption of exponential technologies in societies. And for societies, we mean cities, which for us is the element of society that represents better the good, the bad, and the ugly that we can do in a society because it's felt immediately and it doesn't have many conflicting interests between them. And the idea is to accelerate the adoption of technologies, but with a very important social impact component, because we are also very much preoccupied. And this came because of Salim's involvement at Singularity University as the head of that institution for 5 or 6 years and a co-founder of that, with many interesting people like Elon Musk and Peter Diamandis, Peter Thiel, and Ray Kurzweil. We detected that if you only concentrate on technology and private sector, you might cause more harm than good. If you do not involve the public sector, academia, and NGOs into the component of a holistic environment under which technologies can prosper and thrive, we are missing the point, and we will be leaving a legacy of very negative consequences to our children and grandchildren. So what we are trying to do is precisely that, how to adopt technologies so we evade the backlashes like the taxi drivers against the Uber concepts of this world or whatever, or the hoteliers or tourist agents against the Airbnbs, but with minimizing the negative impact and the collateral damage that the technology will cause into certain elements of society. We are very much involved with that part. So again, it's a matter of how to put humans on top of the equation and not under the equation. And that's what we are trying to do, and we have already conducted 5 of these experiments in cities in Colombia, and now we are involved in Miami and other ones, and soon I'm going to go to the Amazon in Brazil, and we are very excited about this.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Now, 2 of these tremendous forces that really reshaped the modern time, urbanization and technological revolution, are nowhere more evident than in China, actually, where you see it every day. When I arrived to China in late 90s, it was a very much a cash-based society. It then leapfrogged. Now everything is mobile payment. They're using technology that is perhaps, it's not unique to China, but it's just the adoption there is tremendous. The technology from AI to QR, even as simple as the QR code, which is not really that much adopted in anywhere else. By a very quick show of hands, by the way, who here knows what a Singles Day is in China?
$20 billion.
So it's very clear that the majority of people here are married. So Singles Day is basically, it's like a Black Friday and Cyber Monday combined in China, which only happened on the 11th of November, so it was last Friday. Again, every year, new records, new milestones. I believe this year, all of them were met and trespassed. And I would like to invite Dr. Wang to speak a little bit about what he observes in China on a daily basis, because he has a fantastic vantage point from 10,000 feet where he sees not only individual technology, but industry-wide transformation.
Okay, thank you, Daniel. I feel honored to be here, but a little bit nervous because we talk about the futures. Actually, I'm not qualified to talk about the futures. There is right now the mainstream, the people right now in China, I think the word is people born after 1990. So there's post-90 people. They had enjoyed their environment. They had their different mentality, their behaviors. They are familiar with computer, with artificial intelligence. They're probably more comfortable with the future rather than us. So that's why when Carlos mentioned the transhuman code, I was very excited. This is really challenging for us. So I'm like David mentioned, I'm doing M&A for 30 years. Just years ago, we had talked about how M&A people could help technology to upgrading their business, upgrading their business models. We help IBM and Apple's do M&A become stronger. But now the things just like a backfire. Those people help M&A people. They create the machine, the database, and they can take a lot of efficiency to do M&A by machine right now. Due diligence, even matching deals. So that brings us some like a panicking in the, we always mention M&A's art rather than science, but now look like M&A becomes science. Is there how many, what way the people, those big guys, M&A player could have a human touch on those deals. There's a lot of deal in China right now. It's like a technology deal, they're just matching. Even people that match each other, they have make a deal already, like a chemistry, just by machine. So this is something we can see dramatically change the whole business. Not only M&A, is probably about every business. So that's the really question is how we face the future and how we do that. One case we are involved like a blockchain. Everybody talk about blockchain, Bitcoin. And the blockchain technology is in a lot of ways, they get rid of people interface. They get rid of government. They just by computing, distributing, and verify themselves. By millions, billions of machines, they can build up very good governance in society, in the business orders, and what the future will do. We don't know. Right now, there is a buzzword, blockchain in China, and every young guys, they try to create scenarios for use blockchain. So that's something bring a more challenge rather than conclusion. So that's why we like to bring all those. We had 30 people come over all the way. We like to feel the market change, especially those technology change, how the future will be shaped. And then this is happen everywhere in China. I don't think anyone can give a conclusion or something like a. It's very diversified scenario. I think later on, the Carefully will come over. He will do a lot of artificial intelligence things. This is a bizarre society. So that's why it makes us excited and also a little bit nervous. So we'll learn from the young guys. I think they are the future. They will feel more comfortable than us. So that's the way I see the situation. Thank you.
Just a very funny anecdote. You know, the panel is not a panel without a quick anecdote, but it just happened yesterday. So I have an 8-year-old son and a 1-year-old son. And somehow my 1-year-old managed to unlock my iPhone and call my wife yesterday. And my 8-year-old was asking, Alex, please tell me what the code is.
Okay.
So that even the 8-year-old has to learn from 1-year-old, not only us learning from the younger generations. So, but you're absolutely right. Dr. Lee will talk a lot about the implication of technology, particularly artificial intelligence, and what it means for human race, and how we need to rethink a lot of fundamental concepts like work ethics, how we treat different professions, so things like that. And I encourage you to pay close attention. David did mention he's coming in, and he can give you the detail when it's going to happen. That brings us really to the core question. What does it mean to be human in a technology, quote-unquote, infested world? How do we put human at the center of this transformation? The good news is, or bad news is, that recently I was reading a report from, I think, Singularity University, and now the scientists are saying that it's very likely that the first extraterrestrial life that we're going to meet is actually going to be AI-based, or AI-enhanced. It's not going to be biological, it's not going to be natural. So, Carlos, what are your thoughts? How do we keep our humanity while moving at the pace that is neck-breaking?
One way to say something which is very important, and this is an international trend, and say let's leave the young generation the responsibility to figure out the technology world we are entering. But actually, I will say that the young generation needs your wisdom and everybody's wisdom, because the young generation are empowered today with tools that we didn't have when we built the society we have. Those tools are extraordinarily powerful. Sean Parker, just a few days ago, he's one of the financiers and started on Facebook, just said that Facebook could eventually be messing up the brain of our kids. So he's an insider, right? He's been there, he built it. And now he's coming very, very openly to the press saying, guys, be careful what Facebook effect could be on your children. So I think the problem we are facing is that, as you say, one generation forgets what the previous generation did and assume the technology as becoming what we call a native. Actually, your son is now a native, even vis-a-vis his younger son, which is actually trying to enter into the next cycle of technology. Technology cycles are getting reduced extraordinary now. Where it taking our generation maybe 20 years from moving from DOS to Windows, it takes now 20 months to move from the convergence between blockchain and AI, which is creating a third dimension, by the way, because algorithmic technologies are just disrupting again. So some philosophers are saying we are actually in a very similar time than we were in the Renaissance, where in Italy, when you have the different mathematics, philosophy, religion, politics, all merging together and creating disruption. But this disruption is not anymore under our control. So that means that, you know, it took 200 million years to the human brain, to the cortex, the brain cortex, to reach where we are now. And the difference between us and animals is that we learn from something and we teach the other friend what we learn. And if we see a good example on somebody doing something which is good for me and from my family, I will teach that to my family. That was what created the humans that we are. And this is only because we have a part of our brain which has developed bigger and faster than the other animals. Now, you see people now working on connecting that cortex of your brain to a search engine. So you will be, and they give a story, like imagine that Bill Gates walks into this room, and you are going to be walking towards him, and you're going to have 2 minutes to become very smart, so you will be able to discuss with him. And that information, you don't have it on you, so you will have to be able to download that information from Wikipedia, from a search engine. So the challenge is, where is the limit? And the only limit is while humans still bring wisdom into this. The human needs to enhance his capabilities, or what we call it transhumans, without losing the human aspect of it. And what is human aspect? Is our emotion, is the love that we are giving to our kids, is the experience from taking experience from the elders and not repeating, and creating technology that is not going to destroy us. We have nuclear arms. We know how to handle them, right? Or at least in some cases. And we know how not to leave weapons of mass destruction in the hands of people that will not be able to know how to handle them. The same should apply to technology. We have in our hands now some weapons of mass destruction in terms of technology that, if they are not handled in a responsible way, can basically neutralize humanity forever.
Thank you. Now, I will ask the same question to both to the other 2 panelists, because it's very interesting for even me here the answers from societies that are very different in terms of their approaching. You know, in China, which is very human-centric, but very centralized driven in terms of the implementation of planning and so on. And then from Latin America's perspective, where there's perhaps a quote-unquote lack of planning, but there's quite a lot of indigenous innovation. So how do you, in China, you think about putting human at the center of this transformation?
Well, I just listened when Carlos mentioned that. I thought the human had, we call it the generation gap. Mm-hmm. You know, from the elder to younger, there's generation gap, but the machine doesn't have. They're just always updating. They had no gaps. So after 3 or 4 generations, the machine has, well, they had their wisdom. So the wisdom doesn't only belong to human. The machine has wisdom, right? So that's sometimes we feel threatening, how we still contain the center for error. Even we plan to do in the center, but after certain generations, maybe change. So that's one way we think. Just like a few questions, and also, you know, probably 6 months ago, one Chinese entrepreneur, Jack Ma, Alibaba Group, he mentioned the digital economy could realize communism. Think about that. It's no market economy. If you digital economy there, I mean, the digital economies grow up, and there's a whole lot of things will be calculating or offsetting themselves. So there's a central planning could be, is a dream and could be come true in our life. So I don't know. I mean, just like I mentioned, the future challenge. So that's my view.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Well, it's very interesting, because when we were working on the One Laptop Per Child project, we had a mantra, which was children as agents of change. So we are now here sort of in a conflicting tug war between pushing technology and children as becoming the agents of change, and at the same time we are petrified that technology will take over. So how to reach a equilibrium and a balance that we put technology at the center of development, especially in regions like in Southeast Asia or in Latin America, but at the same time, how to create the brakes and the stop sign and the push red button. Hold it 1 minute, because it's going to go too far. And perhaps that's one of the major challenges that we are facing today, is trying to find the equilibrium between creativity, technology, and social prosperity from the point of view of the soul and the person in itself. So we don't become a soulless society. And that is probably going to be taken a lot of effort from all of us in the next few years trying to create the regulatory environment which doesn't choke, but at the same time it doesn't give such a free rein that we create chaos.
Yes.
So very interesting dilemmas, and at the same time, as you say in Chinese, opportunities and challenges and problems are going hand in hand with the same format. Yes. So I think that that's the challenge of the day.
Yes. Now, I wish I could tell you that this was just a teaser, and we, by definition and by design, did not want to take any questions. But the matter of fact, we just run out of time. I'm going to be tackled very shortly. So what I would like to do, I would like to ask the panelists in one sentence to give everyone here a homework to think about it over the course of today and come prepared for tomorrow's session on this topic. So what do you, Dr. Wang, when you teach, what do you tell your students? What type of homework you would like to take this audience to take in one sentence to come prepared for tomorrow's discussion?
Well, you had to learn forever. That's the only thing.
Okay, you have to learn today and come prepared for tomorrow. Carlos.
Yeah, as we are a financial gathering, I would just suggest that you think in terms of investment in the future of technology that unleash the potential of the human person versus just technology for the sake of technology.
Rodrigo?
Yes, again, going back to children, I have been very much involved with children since K to 12 type of environment. And what we always try to do is don't be afraid to make mistakes, number one, and number two, be creative. We have somehow, because of education, we have killed creativity, and I think maintain the creativity and the innovation and curiosity alive.
Very good. So please, over the course of today, learn, make mistakes, and come prepared for tomorrow. We very much look forward to seeing you during tomorrow's discussion. Thank you very much.